Hi everyone. So for this module, we are discussing mobile devices and BYOD. You may not have heard of BYOD. It stands for Bring Your Own Device. So that kind of goes hand in hand with mobile devices as pretty much all of society, almost all of society, even at young ages now, we have some sort of mobile device, whether it be a cell phone or our smartphone in this case, tablet like an iPad or Galaxy tablet, a Fire tablet, Amazon Fire, a laptop, some type of device that makes it mobile for us to carry around and still work, stay connected with our friends and family, have entertainment, read books, ebooks, or whatever it may be. So we are bringing those not only, from room to room in our own house, but also into our place of work. So what is a mobile device? Well, we kind of just explained it and you probably have, know what that is or are able to identify one. It's a small handheld computing device, typically having a display screen with touch input or a miniature keyboard even. Most of them are all touch screen today as you see more and more abandoning the keyboards and things like that. It usually weighs less than a few pounds or even a few ounces in these cases. Tablets, smartphones, laptops, mobile phones, pagers, PDAs, anything you can think of, video game systems that are mobile like the Nintendo Switch, all of those qualifies technically a mobile device. Mobile device platforms have special operating systems that do mimic the desktop operating systems we are currently familiar with, yet they are solely developed with the user mobility in mind. So for instance, if you have a iPhone versus an iPad versus an Apple laptop, you'll notice that all of those operating systems, yes, they can work together with, like, if you sign into your Apple ID account, but the functionality is going to be drastically different. Even Windows 10, Windows 8, you see that they went to like an app store type of thing for downloading some software, but it's still not full blown like if you had a Windows phone. That they do make some Windows phones. I know Nokia had a couple, the Nokia Lumina, I believe it is. But again, uh, they're usually your operating system on your mobile device is kind of specific to that and helping you function on a mobile device. So, for instance, like Google Sheets or Google Docs, they do have that for the iPhone. I have it on my iPhone, but it is drastically different than working with Google Docs if you were to sign into your email and have it on a full-blown computer. A lot of options are missing, but again, it's meant for you to work on the go, not necessarily complete everything as if you were sitting at a desktop computer. Cost varies greatly from device to device, and a lot of companies will offer discounts and things like that for you buying the device, and they have all different types of varying promotions and all sorts of stuff for mobile devices. Mobile device technology grows at an exponential rate, often coming out with new revisions and new products very rapidly. So mobile devices are constantly coming out with a revision almost yearly. You notice that with the iPhone, the Galaxy Note and S devices, they've got one coming out every single year. Mobile devices can contain, but are not limited to, the following features: touch screens, miniature keyboards, like we mentioned, Wi-Fi and or 3G, 4G, and 5G network capabilities. So some tablets, especially, come with the 4G, 5G, or 3G network capabilities where you'll need a data plan or something like that, but some are Wi-Fi only. So it just depends. Removable storage options, iPhones don't have that, where some of the Samsung Galaxy, whether it be a tablet or a phone, do have those capabilities to add a memory card for more storage. Cameras and video recording, and that's gotten light years better. It's almost rare to see somebody have an actual camera unless you're a professional photographer or actually have like are an enthusiast or a hobbyist. Most people rely on their cell phone. So that's that convergence we talked about of different technologies from many modules ago. And then specialized platforms like your operating system. And we are so used to typing with our thumbs now, as you can see that photo over there to the right. So let's just run through a couple of them. Again, this is not an entirety of all mobile devices because, again, they come out so quickly, it's hard to keep this updated and encompass everything. So we're going to go over some of the major ones. So Apple iOS, that is the operating system that is solely for the Apple mobile devices. It is proprietary. iOS 12 is the current latest version. iOS 13 is coming soon. It's used by iPads, iPhones, iPod Touch devices. So you'll see it be a little bit different on each one, but not drastically different. Apps are bought and managed through the iTunes Store and iTunes software. So, or the App Store. The Apple iOS, this is just kind of what the latest 12/13 kind of mix in between some of the pictures here shows. So you can see some of the ones in the middle there, like the Animoji that they have, where you can create an emoji of yourself, and it'll, if you hold your phone up to your face, it'll like record you doing some stuff. My kids get a kick out of it because you can make yourself a dinosaur or a chicken or whatever you happen to do. And it'll follow your face and open your mouth, whatever. Screen time is one that I do enjoy as a parent because you can set certain limits on how long your kids are on their mobile device. As we try to be more conscious of a lot of screen time and the side effects of that. You have Face ID, where you can unlock your phone with your face, or it'll actually enter in your passwords based off facial recognition, and it works pretty well. So this is just an example of what it looks like. The iPad, there are many models now. iPad mini, both of my kids have one of those and they really enjoy it. It's a little bit smaller, not as big, and a little more cost effective. iPad Pro, that is for, the person who's going to get the most out of their iPad. You're going to be using it a lot, has a lot of storage space, a lot of processing power, has a pen that comes along with it so you can write and draw on your screen. iPad Air is a little bit lesser version, so it's lighter, more mobile, or well, both of them's mobile, but it's just a little bit lighter, but not as powerful. And then you got the Classic. The models vary between sizes, and newer models have upgraded screen resolutions and faster processors and stuff. And they do have accessories like the Apple Pencil, detachable keyboards, smart covers, and things like that. These are just some examples of the different versions and kind of what they cost. iPad Pros start at about 800. The regular iPad, that's like the Classic, starts about 329. iPad Mini starts about 399, and the iPad Air starts at about 499. So it just really depends on your goal and what you're using it for. Smartphone, the iPhone models still available for purchase. Now you can purchase ones even previous to this still, but those don't accept any more operating system updates. But the newest ones, iPhone 10R, 10s, iPhone 10. The one over there to the right is the iPhone 10s, I believe, because of the color of it. But I've got an iPhone 10. I love it. Wouldn't trade it for the world. iPhone 7, 7 Plus. They don't really have like the bigger, smaller options anymore. They're just kind of one size. But they do have a screen to or edge to edge screen now, and there's no home button or anything. And we talked about some of the new model features like the Face ID. If you do have some of the older models that did have a home button, they do have built-in fingerprint scanners. But again, it just depends on which model you have. Now, the one thing I do like about Apple is that even though you may still have like an iPhone 8 or 8 Plus or whatever, it's still accepting some of the updates. Eventually that will wear off, but it is still available to update for a while. So, and Apple tends to update their operating system pretty often, once or twice well, about twice a year, like major revision updates, but they do security or push out security updates all along. And this is just kind of the evolution of the iPhone. As you notice, way over there to the left is kind of like the iPhone 1. And then as time progressed, it got bigger. It got slimmer some. They did away with the home button. Screen got clearer and all that. So just depends on which model you got. Android. So the most popular operating system on the planet is actually Android because there are so many mobile devices that use Android. Now, Android is different. It's not proprietary, meaning you can install Android on pretty much any hardware that you want to. And a lot of people are able to customize the Android operating system specifically for their phone because it's free. Open source means it's free. It's a Linux-based operating system for a multitude of mobile devices. So these companies spend a lot of money customizing it. So Samsung and all these, they customize the Linux operating system just for their phones. But it's free, so they can do that. Apple is only on an iPhone. Or the iOS only on an iPhone. Here, the Android OS can be used for tablets, smartphones, all types of mobile devices. So this is actually the most popular operating system on the planet, and it was developed by Google. Android OS, the later revisions have been Android 9, which is called Pie, and you'll notice as I read these names out, they're all after desserts. I don't know why. Somebody must have a sweet tooth. All the way back to the first Android, there always have been uh, sweet related. So Android 9 was pie, Android 8 is Oreo, Android 7 nougat, Android 6 marshmallow, Android 5 lollipop, Android 4 was ice cream sandwich. And I just kind of put some of those icons down there at the bottom for them. Some of the other previous versions were even like honeycomb. I think one was like gingerbread. So it's just all different types of, I guess they'll, never run out. So, and those apps are bought and managed through Google Play. Some of the Android tablets and smartphones include the Google Pixel, Samsung Galaxy Note series, and they've turned the because the Note is such a big phone. So if you notice, like back in the day, phones were really big, even the like car phones. Then they got really small, and everybody thought, oh, eventually I'm just going to carry around something the size of a dime, and it's going to be my phone. No, they went back to being big, but just touchscreen. So the Samsung Galaxy Note is more like a phablet. It's like a phone and a tablet because it's so big. It almost feels like like with my son's iPhone or with my son's iPad Mini. I remember one of my relatives had a iPhone 8 Plus. They were literally almost the same. It's like I felt like I was holding the same device. It was just so big. So the Galaxy Note is kind of the same thing. But again, it's good for if you need to see stuff really big. It is good for that. It has a lot of screen size. Samsung Galaxy tablets, Samsung Galaxy S series. I believe they're on the 10 now. Moto Z was one that came out with all these different mods that you could put on the back, like a projector to project it on the wall, high resolution camera, a loudspeaker to just make it like really loud. So there's all different types of modifications. I don't know how popular that was. I don't know anybody that had one. The Google Nexus tablet, the Droid Turbo, that even came back. The Droid, like in a touchscreen model, did have a shatterproof screen. So that was something they tried to go with. So you'll see Android on a lot of different phones, LG, different manufacturers, HTC, all different manufacturers, because again, Android can be used on all these devices. Blackberry, we haven't seen any of those, but its OS is proprietary and only ran on BlackBerry smartphones and tablets. It was developed by RIM, Research in Motion. They were actually one of the first keyboard integrated phones, but their popularity died quickly as the iPhone and other touchscreen phones came out, and ones with the little button at the bottom. They kind of mimicked BlackBerry a little bit. BlackBerry had like a ball in the middle of the keyboard. BlackBerry tried to make a comeback as a company with a new line of smartphones, but I don't think it'll ever really ever take over what iPhone and the Samsung Galaxy S have kind of created a stranglehold on the market. And their apps were bought and managed through BlackBerry App World. But again, back in the day, people who had Blackberries loved them because you had the keyboard you could type on. A lot of people mimic that, but now they've kind of went away from that. I don't know how popular it could ever become in the future, but guess we'll just have to wait and see. Stranger things have happened. Windows Mobile, they do have mobile phones. Their Windows Mobile is more geared towards some of their other devices like Surface Pros and Surface Books and things like that that we'll look at. But again, it was more aimed at allowing their customers to be able to access files and apps from their desktop computers, kind of creating a seamless transition from your desktop to a laptop to a mobile device. And again, these are like the Microsoft Surface Pro 6s now. I've got a Surface Pro 3. I loved it. It's really nice touchscreen, very mobile, carried around with you to meetings, nice pen on it and everything. I wish I could get a 6, so if anybody wants to donate to that fund, that'd be great. Then the Microsoft Surface Book 2. That one is more like an integrated laptop, so the screen doesn't necessarily The back does detach, but it's a little more powerful than the Surface Pro. Surface Pro is more meant for mobility. The Surface Book is a little bit larger and a little more powerful, so it's more expensive. And this was a Windows smartphone that never really took off much, but the Microsoft Nokia Lumia 950 was one that they came out with, and a couple other Nokia ones, but never really took off fully like they wanted it to. So that kind of brings us to BYOD. With all these, and again, that's just scratching the surface on mobile devices that are out there. But BYOD, bring your own device, good or bad. So when you're bringing these devices into the workplace, businesses have to have some type of policy set to govern the use of your personal mobile device on company networks, because you might bring it to work and connect it to the Wi-Fi. Let's say you've got some virus on your phone that hops onto the Wi-Fi. That can happen. So we got to have some type of policy there. Also, how employees should access their work-related resources. So for instance, when I add my work email to my phone, there's a policy that makes me put a lock code on my phone. Previous to that, I did not have a lock code on my iPhone, but because I wanted to add my work email, I'm an employee, it actually has a policy set that says to you to do that and update new email, you have to have a lock code. So that's kind of a policy that we have, and information from your personal mobile devices, you can't share that information. So some companies have a policy like if you are going to access your work email, you have to have these things like a lock code or whatever so that people can't get into your personal stuff if your device were to be stolen. You also have to think about, let's say you're a doctor. Do you want people accessing emails about your personal medical records from their cell phones? Because those are vulnerable to anybody picking them up and reading that. So you could run into HIPAA violations or any types of stuff like that and end up getting sued. So you have to think about your employees. If you're a business or you're a chief information officer, you have to think about that in terms of you know your employees and what they're accessing, company secrets or secret formulas for food companies and beverage companies or whatever it is. You have to think about that in terms of lost devices, what information is being shared, um, you know any of that. So you got to really think about that kind of stuff and have those policies in place before anything bad happens. So the advantages are allows company to cut costs. Some companies will even pay you. So for instance, if you work from home or anything like that, some companies will offer to pay your data package or phone bill if you want to have them contact you on your personal phone instead of having to buy you another cell phone. They'll pay your part. So it allows us to cut costs as employees sometimes, and then it allows companies to cut costs so they don't have to keep buying new devices. They'll say, hey, do you have a laptop? Okay, use yours then, and maybe we'll offer you some little incentive that will prevent us from having to purchase you a $2,000 or $3,000 laptop. Limited IT support usually offered because, again, you do, as an IT department, have to think about, okay, well, what's the cutoff for helping people with their personal devices? So yeah, that's a very gray area to walk into. Integrate work into your personal life much easier, eventually becoming a norm for employees. So that's kind of one advantage from a company standpoint, but also it could be a disadvantage from a employee standpoint. So some of the disadvantages are the security risk with accessing company data on unsecured networks. If you were sitting in Starbucks and, like I said, you were a doctor accessing some medical records or something, that would not be a good idea, right? Because Starbucks network is completely open for anybody to sniff your network traffic and see what you're looking at. Data loss prevention, exposure hard to control because, again, you can lose a mobile device, leave it in an airport or in the bathroom, wherever. Who is responsible for mobile device repair? So that's that gray area I was talking about. If you were to, let's say, be on a business trip and you took your cell phone with you, and the only reason you took it, or your laptop, the only reason you took it is because you knew you had to work, but you drop it, is it your responsibility or the company's? Because technically you were trying to do company stuff, but technically it's your device. Gray area. And then employee device variation. So from an IT standpoint, it's hard to support everybody's device that has so many different types of devices. When you can, as a company, buy one or two or three, maybe even five types of devices and know how to support those and get really good at it, it's easier to fix problems than having so many different variations and models and everything to try to support. Also, again, another disadvantage is, again, if you're so connected to work. I know with like I've seen certain people with smart running watches because I'm a runner. They'll get their email to their running watch, and for me, running is like a relaxing time where I like to get out in nature and just run, and run miles and miles. I run marathons, so it's a good time to just, for me, to think and everything. If I'm constantly getting emails on my wrist notifying me, notifying me of new emails, that would be really annoying to me. So, but again, you guys know I stay connected to my email a lot, to my phones, because I respond to you guys all the time at night or whenever. So there's always that give and take, right? So those are just some of the disadvantages. Hopefully, it just kind of, again, we only scratched the surface on available mobile devices. I'm sure you can think of many more, and even some of the BYOD advantages and disadvantages. So think about that as more of a conversation starter, and then jump over to our voice thread discussion board post.